when I set a boundary, when I'm radically honest, then I get past the fear of, oh God, everything's just going to blow up and be bad. When I do that, and I'm always like blown away how quickly people respond, how quickly the universe responds. Like, so you would think after multiple experiences of this, that I would just trust that that is the best way of being.
Big show today, guys.
Happy to be with you.
Gabrielle Bernstein, a role model for a new generation of spiritual seekers.
Jenna. I started this podcast for two reasons. One, because God told me to. It just was something I was doing for fun, and it became very clear to me that it was more, and it was something that was necessary to support people. What a big talk is, babe, is just me inviting people who I really dig to come on and talk to me about spirituality. And that's my only agenda. I just want to talk to you about your spiritual practices, your personal growth practices, and just riff with you and be in conversation with you. I say this at the top of every big talk. It's not an interview because I suck at interviewing. I am in conversation as if people were just sitting in on this conversation. And frankly, you were at the top of my list for the early conversations because you actually were one of the people that during this pandemic has been, whether you realize it or not, a real support system for me, even through our casual DMs, because we were in a really similar position. And we were feeling quite left out, I think. And because we both made the decision to be very inward and to be very cautious, because you had a newborn and now he's a big boy. And I'm trying to conceive. So I just want to thank you for your presence and your helping me feel like I wasn't alone in my hermit life that I had chosen.
Same, girl. Same. I mean, that moment where we connected on DMs, so 2021 of us, but it really changed my whole personality going into this whole COVID thing as well, because like we shared that both of us, I think we seem very like-minded. There's a sense of like how we live our life. I've read all your books. I think you're just incredible and just so similar in certain ways. And I was choosing to live a certain way, which I felt was the best way for my family and the best way for, socially and culturally. I just felt like it was my responsibility to be pretty, COVID cautious, as it's now become a coin, but I was not seeing that in my day-to-day life. I was having a lot of friends and a lot of people that I felt were similar and spiritual and like-minded that were not living that way. And it was messing with me big time. Here I am thinking I'm so strong in my own truth and belief. But it was messing with me because I thought, am I just in fear? And, like what's going on? How am I the only person that is taking this in the same way, who is really taking this super serious and is protecting my family? And I was just blown away by what happened in the world. And so when we connected and you were living the same way, making the same choices, we were struggling with the same things and realizing that, no, this is not fear. This is a very rounded, great approach that we're giving in safety with ourselves and our family. I really went, and then it made me be like, oh God, I love the universe. I love this, because who would have thought, like it just was such a moment that really helped me so much too. So
just hear you. Like you're not alone. And I think, look, there has been so much judgment in 2020 and now even in 2021. Obviously the most divisive judgment attacks we've seen. Obviously a lot of it became political. But at the end of the day, when you are struggling and you find someone going through something similar, regardless of what side of that story you're on, it can be really heartwarming. And so you were my DM COVID.
I mean, totally. And it even goes back to, I had gone to Oprah's Super Soul Sunday TED Talk is what I called it at UCLA. And I remember listening to you and I was just like, I get her. Like, I just get her. I've been this way since I was a kid. but there was just something, there's like a real groundedness, openness, and connective, and you just speak the same way I speak.
Totally.
So it was just really nice to see, like, oh my God, we're on the same page with this.
Totally. And you're what I call a spirit junkie.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. When I read that book, I was like, yep.
That's me. And so I actually have this quote from you. Let me see if I can read it here. I've always been a little hippie spiritual. I'm very sensitive, what you might call an empath. I know what it feels like to overextend and to overgive in life. I give out so much energy constantly. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that.
And by the way, Jenna, if I start trying to fix you, or as I say, Dear Gabby, you.
Yes. Oh, girl.
It's like
Dear Gabby me. I love it.
I bring people on to like hear them and hear their wisdom. And then all of a sudden, within like 5 minutes, I'm like, well, let me tell you how we can work on that. And
Honey,
it's
I'm open.
kind of inevitable, and it's part of the show, I guess. So
yes,
let's talk about, let's unpack that. Let's talk about your empathy, your empathic nature, your overextending. Is it still an issue at the moment?
Always. It's always something that I continually have to work on. Boundaries for me. It's been an uncovering. Boundaries are the thing I work on the most in life, whether that is with my kids, whether that's with my partner, with my work, with my friends. I mean, it's just a constant thing for me. And I'm naturally a lover, not a fighter. I'm naturally desiring harmony, but I also have had over the past couple of years and really for a while, but I've had to unpack and start learning the difference between codependency and being, sensitive, empathic, giving. So there's all these like things I've had to really sort of wake up to and learn, and it all is all sort of part and parcel of the same thing, which is giving away my energy. And I'm super empathic and sensitive. I am very, in tune, and I know things a lot of times, and I feel things. And so, but realizing that a lot of the times I give out so much energy in order to create harmony so that I feel safe, rather than, being it becomes this cycle, which is not good for me, not good for anybody. And then I'm drained, and then I can't give anything to anyone. And then I'm like, oh, I feel so boundaries, they're difficult for me, but I've learned them.
The storyline then that you're referencing is, if I'm not giving, I'm not safe.
If I'm not in harmony, I'm not safe.
And in order to be in harmony, you have to give. If I'm
not in harmony, I make everything great. It was like, I'm the fantastic, I could create harmony very well, but at the expense of my own being. And so you have to kind of be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so that was a huge lesson for me, a huge coming into my power moment, and nothing like 2020 to really make you get comfortable being uncomfortable. Yep. So I did so much work on that.
Yeah, that codependent behavior is something that I definitely have battled with. I think 2020 actually was a turning point for me, because while I, for a long time, didn't even identify as codependent, because I felt like, oh, well, I kicked that in my romantic relationships, right? That's how I was in my 20s when it came to romance, because I was so using love as another form of addiction when I got sober. And it's easy to just say, okay, now I'm clean, but now I'm going to be a love addict. And that need to be in a codependent relationship was for me very similar. Like, if I'm not in this relationship, I'm not safe. And while I did a lot of work around that, I didn't even identify how codependent I had become in some of my other relationships, work relationships, the ways that I would overly serve and like fix and show up for people that worked for me. I'm like, like my blood's fucking boiling as I even say this right now. I'm going to have so many fights on this show, but my blood, but like, it's not that I'm mad at the person. I'm mad at myself. Right. I don't know, I'm mad at myself, but the amount of hours I spent just trying to save the people that were literally employed to work for me, that their job was
same. Oh, same. Girl. Is it difficult for you? It's always like, I always get this. It's difficult for me to not only express a boundary, but then if there's something I want being done differently, or that I'm not happy with a certain job of someone who is working with me or for me, you know, it's like, okay, I'm conflict avoidant, but I have to have this conversation. And, you know, I've learned ways to express and be assertive without feeling bad afterwards. Oh
Right.
God, you know, did I upset anyone? And codependency is interesting because I really, really never identified with it because I'm so independent. And I was very, you know, I'm Sagittarian, an independent girl. And for a long period of my life, it was like boys and relationships were such an afterthought, you know, but you realize as, you know, you go on and you get in long-term relationships and there's patterns that you start doing that I started realizing, oh, I'm overcompensating because this feels like weird and unsafe, and so I'm helping someone with their issues, but at the expense of myself. And you're like, oh, that's good. You know, it's like, it's sneaky. It's not always this like needy, you know, I can't be safe without a relationship. It was like all kinds of weird, interesting webs that we're weaving.
Like, if you're not happy with me, then I'm not good enough. When some of these, all relationships are a two-way relationship. It's a two-way street.
Yes.
You can't make it all about people liking you all the time. I think that was like the big turning point for me. And in March, I experienced a lot of that, those codependent relationships really kind of the shit hit the fan with them. And so I had to see my part. I had to change my ways because I can't blame anybody else. Like, everybody else has a part, but I didn't want to, it's not about anybody else's part, it's about my part. And so what was my part? My part was that I stuck around too long for certain relationships. My part was that I was, you know, quick to hire and took way too long to fire. You know what I mean? Like,
whatever. Girl, we are the same.
Lord. And so, you know, making those adjustments and really healing that for myself in this past year in particular has had such a radical change in the way that I act. And I think that the people that work for me now, I have a whole new team, and not just people who work for me, but my friends as well. I think that they actually respect me more and probably feel more ease working with me because it's just so clear, to your word, boundary.
It's boundaries. I mean, I so relate with what you're saying. And it's same, by the way, I have stayed in a relationship way longer than that was good for my own mental state. And then I've also had people that have been working with me for me, and have just, they're miserable, I'm miserable, but I'm sort of waiting and I don't know. And I've had the lesson, as we talk like universal lessons, that the universe sometimes, you know, you're past your due date and then something happens and they have to exit your life, you know? But I have gotten the lesson where it's like, no, girl, like, we need you to kind of step into your dragon power and to claim what it is. There were so many times I was like, well, you know, what am I doing wrong here? I was like, until I got it, like, oh, I have to make these decisions. I have to sort of vocalize my truth. I have to do this and jump off the cliff and see what happens. Then it was like, got it. That's the lesson here. It's not, you know, we're not just going to make everything super easy and take people in and out of lives. Like, it just has to be your choice.
Vocalize your truth. That was a really good way of saying it. Vocalize your truth. Yeah. So
codependents have a really hard time doing that. It's
100%. But you know,
we know our truth.
The antidote to codependency is vocalizing your truth, because that's actually like this, like I keep talking about, I'm realizing in this conversation what a radical transformation I've had this year, because I started then now practicing radical honesty and just straight up not hiding anything and just telling it like it is. And that in itself is such a gift, because you think that, oh, okay, if I'm going to keep it together for everybody else. Well, no, because that's not helping anyone. It's not.
Yeah.
You're carrying that resentment. You're going to be sending that energy so hardcore to that other person, no matter what you say. So
it's so true. And the radical honesty, I'm always so blown away by this. When I set a boundary, when I'm radically honest, then I get past the fear of, oh God, everything's just going to blow up and be bad. when I do that and I'm always like blown away how quickly people respond, how quickly the universe responds. Like, so you would think after multiple experiences of this, that I would just trust that that is the best way of being. I mean, Steve and I have this ongoing joke. He's like, every single time we've had a boundary discussed, like I respond immediately. Or so like, why would you be scared? I was like, it's a good point. Like, it's a good point. Same with my daughter. You know, she is a naturally strong-willed. I never want to beat, stop it within her, because she is just she's got this like contrarian, like I want to march to the beat of my own drum, but she's a boundary pusher. And so, for so many years, it was so tough for me because I'm such a lover, and her and I's connection is like beyond. And
I hope you're enjoying this show. And if you want to get more Gabby, you can click the link below, subscribe to my Dear Gabby podcast on Apple, be the first to know when the episodes drop, because they come out 1 week before the video. And you can download it to your phone, listen to it while you're driving, while you're cooking, while you're working out. You can just get more Gabby wherever you are. And if you feel called, leave a review. I'd love to hear from you. Now let's get back to this episode.
It wasn't, I've had to really, as she gotten older, boundaries have been so important. And she always responds. It's like intense in the moment for me to set it and then keep it. And then she always responds. They need it. Boundaries make everyone else feel safe, and that
children.
was huge for me.
Yeah, particularly children. They need them. They need that structure. Absolutely. And parenting relationships can be parenting mother-daughter relationships can be some of the most codependent relationships. I'm actually facing a lot.
You need to be super careful.
Oh yeah. Like one thing I read recently online by this child psychiatrist or psychologist was when your kid like hits you or something, or like when you're immediately gonna be like, that hurt mommy. Like, don't hurt mommy. It hurts mommy's feelings when you hurt mommy like that.
Right.
Like, no. She was like, hell no. You can't make your feelings their problem.
Yes.
And so it's like, because then they're going to take on the story of like, I have to make sure mommy's feeling good all the time.
Yes.
And so, children just innately, their core belief is I have to make it right for everybody, because if I'm not making it right for everybody, then I'm not safe. I mean, that's in their brain.
Yes.
Their brain is set up that way.
Yes.
So what the woman said to do instead was to just start to inquire, like, oh, I see you hit mommy. Is there something that you need to express? Is there a feeling that you want to tell me about? And that is a very major turning point for me, because I was doing that. I was like, Ollie.
Oh, for sure. Me too.
You hurt mommy. And I also even noticed myself being like my child self with my child, being like, you're hurting my feelings. And, it's like, no.
Totally. Oh God. I've had the amount of conversations I've had with Evie about, because she's naturally, she's similar. She's very empathetic. Even her teachers are like, she is, the first one to go help someone when they're hurting in class. She's always thinking of solutions. She's very empathetic, which is wonderful. We love these qualities, but we've had moments of like, I can see her trying to make people happy. She's around going like, well, I don't want to say that to so-and-so. I don't want to say that because that might hurt their feelings. And and it's great, but Evie, you're not responsible for other people's feelings. You're, so if you say something and that hurts mommy's feelings, or Steve or dad, or whoever's feelings, that's not your responsibility. Like if we've had so many talks about like, if somebody is not in a great mood that day, that has nothing to do with anybody else. That's just their problem, not our, but it is for a young girl who's empathetic. It's just funny. Life is so funny. The lessons you're learning, you're also teaching and learning alongside your children.
They're literally, Dan Siegel calls it sponge neurons. He doesn't even call it mirror neurons, sponge neurons, because they're literally just all freaking day, just picking it up. I see even in my son who's 2, my husband, whenever there's like, any kind of rift between me and my husband, my son goes and gets the broom, because he wants to clean up, because he sees that, when daddy's mad, he's cleaning up.
Oh my God. Do we have also the same partner? Because that's exactly like
Oh, so
surely
you
it's
have
so
you have a mana cleaner as well in your home?
yes.
Listen, we can't
Yes,
complain
Gabby.
because we would rather that than like a dirty dude. But
Right. But then I'm
crazy.
a wholehearted mess, you know? So there's like, I feel for him. I'm always like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. My husband is probably 50% of the day seen with a vacuum in his hand.
So much that our son, Callum, like now likes to use the broom because he sees
That's right.
Steve with the broom.
Yep. Ollie and Callum will just, start a cleaning crew together. And
I just like, look, there's worse things to learn.
Yeah, seriously. It's wonderful. It's a great
funny.
quality. It's a great quality. Mana cleaning. Oh my God.
I would give anything. I was like, please, how in the world do I become this? Like, I was like, there's only so long I can kind of claim my free spiritedness. At some point, I'll be like, all right, And COVID, it's like we're all in a house on top of each other. We are moms, dads, housekeepers, cooks. We're all
Everything.
things at once. So it's been, sort of a crash course.
What's your work like?
I did a Netflix show called Soundtrack that already came out. It's on Netflix now. It was actually perfect timing during all of our,
it came
stay
out
at home.
Right when everyone
it came out before the pandemic.
Great.
But then it became, once everyone's home and Netflixing, it became a lot more people found it and saw it, which was great. And then, work-wise, I have a production company called Everheart that we've been in development with a bunch of projects on during this time, which has been great because I had Callum. A week later, COVID lockdown happened. And it was a postpartum haze. I mean, it was, at first it's this sort of adrenaline rush. You're like, oh, this is kind of fun. Okay, Evie's home for school and what are we doing? And thinking it's really wasn't going to be that bad. And we were going to be able to contain this. And then, of course, lo and behold, it was this horrific thing that has affected all of us so deeply. So having that be at the same time as your postpartum, I didn't have the bandwidth to even think about work. It was focus on my child, on my family, on my partner, my health, and then in my production company. And just now, a year into this, I've come to the realization like, okay, there's some opportunities coming in, and I do have to and want to go back to work at some point, but it's a constant balancing act. And I feel for every working parent out there, because it is a real balancing act. Okay, how do I make this work? For me, it's never in LA. So it's like, okay, how do I figure out the traveling of it all and, the kids?
It's much different. Yeah. Let me ask you this. Did you have any postpartum depression or anxiety or anything like that?
I had not so much this time around, which was interesting with Evie, because I had her in London and I had to go back to work on a episodic TV show, Witches of East End, which was in Vancouver. And so I had to travel with her. And at the time, my part, Shan, wasn't available to be with us for most of the parts. So it was me, my doula, and Evie all by ourselves traveling at 6 weeks when she was 7 weeks to Vancouver. And I went right back to work thinking, it's this sort of ignorance is bliss. I thought, okay, I think I can do that. It'll be like 2 months after and I'll be able to have her on set. That was really hard because that was long hours. I did have her on set with me constantly. It was just really difficult. And I had a lot of postpartum anxiety, I would say. It was like, I just never stopped. It was like you're up a couple times in the night, then you're working all day. I was breastfeeding, I was pumping, I was without a partner. I mean, it was just craziness, right? This time around, I was so grounded. Even though the world was crazy, I was home and in this love nest, and it was.
I watched that. I mean, it's funny. It's like you see people on Instagram, so you're like, oh my God, I totally know their experience. But I know that you're super authentic on Instagram. And so I have like visual images of you like lying back with your baby, like just relaxing.
I did.
And I remember thinking about, because I've been trying to conceive this year and thinking like, like using those visions as like manifestations for myself. And like,
that's amazing. I'll send you a whole camera roll. You can have a whole
roll of all of your cuddly, cozy photos.
Oh my God. It was great. It was like me, Steve, Callum, and Evie just cuddling, and
it was a lot of cuddling.
It was so lovely.
It was a lot of cuddling. If you like this video and you want to get more Gabby, check out the next one right over here.